The sound of champagne glasses clinking drifts through the Riverside Country Club's ornate ballroom as I stand in the service corridor, my hands raw from scrubbing dishes that cost more than my monthly rent. Through the swinging kitchen doors, I catch glimpses of my mother Patricia laughing at something Frank said, her silver anniversary dress catching the light from the crystal chandeliers. She looks radiant, happy, completely unaware that her daughter is being treated like hired help at her own celebration. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. I wasn't supposed to be back here. 20 minutes ago, I was sitting at table 12 with David, my boyfriend, trying to enjoy what should have been a beautiful family milestone. Then Amanda, my stepsister, appeared at my shoulder with that familiar sweet smile that never reaches her eyes. "Jess, could you help me with something really quick?" she'd whispered, her manicured hand already guiding me toward the kitchen. "The caterer is having issues with the dessert service, and you know how Mom gets about details." That was 45 minutes ago. Now I'm elbow deep in soapy water while Amanda holds court at the head table, telling everyone about her recent promotion at the marketing firm. Through the service window, I watch Kevin, my stepbrother, regaling a group of Frank's business associates with stories from his recent European backpacking trip, the one Frank funded entirely. Neither of them has set foot in this kitchen. The swinging door bursts open and Amanda appears with an armload of dirty plates. "God, Jess, you're a lifesaver," she says, setting them on the already overflowing counter. "The caterers are completely overwhelmed and frankly, they're not very good. Mom specifically asked for you to handle the coffee service for the toast. You know how particular she is about presentation." I turn from the industrial sink, water dripping from my forearms. "Amanda, I'm a guest here. This is my mother's anniversary party." She laughs, but there's an edge to it. "Oh, come on. You've always been so good at this stuff. Remember how you basically planned Kevin's graduation party? And my housewarming? You have such an eye for detail." She's already backing toward the door. "Besides, you know how important tonight is for Mom and Frank. 30 years is such a big deal." Before I can respond, she's gone, leaving me alone with the dishes and the distant sound of my family celebrating without me. I catch my reflection in the stainless steel surface of the industrial refrigerator. My carefully styled hair is now pulled back in a messy bun, secured with a rubber band I found in the kitchen. My navy cocktail dress, the one I bought specifically for tonight, has water stains across the front and grease spots on the sleeves. I look exactly like what I've become, a member of the catering staff. My phone buzzes against the metal counter. A text from David, "Where are you?" They're about to do the toast. "Your mom keeps asking." I type back quickly, "Stuck in kitchen, tell her I'll be right there." But as I reach for a towel to dry my hands, the kitchen door swings open again. This time it's Frank himself, his face flushed from champagne and celebration. He's loosened his tie and there's a satisfied look in his eyes that makes my stomach clench. "There you are, Jessica. The coffee isn't ready yet." He glances at his expensive watch with theatrical concern. "The caterer assured us everything would be perfect tonight, but honestly, the service has been subpar. Thank goodness we have you to step in." Something in his tone makes me pause. There's an assumption there, a certainty that I'll continue doing exactly what I'm doing without question. It's the same tone he used when he asked me to handle the invitations for tonight's party. The same tone he used when Kevin needed help with his resume, or when Amanda required assistance moving apartments. Always framed as a favor, always presented as temporary help, but somehow always becoming my responsibility entirely. "Frank, I think there's been some confusion. I'm not working tonight. I'm here as your stepdaughter, as Patricia's daughter." His eyebrows rise slightly and for a moment he looks genuinely puzzled. "Of course you are. But family helps family, doesn't it? Especially when someone has your organizational skills." He moves to the coffee station, examining the industrial machines with the air of someone inspecting a hotel room. "Patricia mentioned how capable you are at your law firm. All those late nights, handling complex cases, managing difficult clients. This is just a different kind of event management. The comparison hits me like a physical blow. At Thompson Hayes and Associates, I'm a respected paralegal with 5 years of experience handling high-profile cases. Attorneys rely on my research, my attention to detail, my ability to manage complex litigation schedules. I've worked on cases involving corporate fraud, civil rights violations, and criminal defense matters that have shaped local policy. Tonight I'm being asked to serve coffee at my own mother's anniversary party. The caterer they hired is charging us premium rates, Frank continues, apparently unaware of my growing anger. But your family, you understand what's at stake here. Patricia has been planning this night for months, and she specifically said she trusted you to make sure everything goes perfectly. Through the service window, I can see my mother at the head table, radiant and laughing. She catches sight of me through the window and waves, her face lighting up with genuine affection. For a moment my resolve wavers. This is her night. Her celebration, her happiness matters more than my wounded pride. But then Kevin appears beside Frank, holding an empty champagne flute and wearing the slightly glassy expression of someone who's had several drinks. Hey Jess, can you grab me another champagne? The waiters are being really slow tonight. He hands me the glass without waiting for a response and turns back to Frank. Dad, the photographer wants to get some shots of the immediate family before the dancing starts. Immediate family, I stand in the kitchen, holding my stepbrother's empty glass, wearing a stained dress and an apron I don't remember putting on, and realize that in their minds I'm not part of the immediate family taking photographs. I'm the help who ensures their immediate family looks perfect. The kitchen door swings shut behind them, and I'm alone again with the industrial hum of refrigerators and the distant sound of celebration. I set Kevin's glass on the counter next to the mountain of dishes and pull out my phone. My hands are shaking slightly as I scroll through my contacts to find David's number. Where are you? He answers immediately. Your mom is getting worried. She keeps asking Amanda and Kevin where you went, and they keep saying you're handling some kind of emergency. I'm in the kitchen, David. They have me working the coffee service for Mom's toast. There's a pause. What do you mean working? I mean I've been washing dishes for the last hour while my family celebrates in the ballroom. Amanda told me the caterers needed help, and then Frank came in talking about family helping family and event management skills. David's voice gets very quiet. Are you serious right now? Dead serious, and now Kevin wants me to get him champagne while they take immediate family photos. I'm coming to get you. No, don't, this is—
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
Mom's night. I can't cause a scene at her anniversary party. But even as I say it, something is crystallizing in my mind. This isn't the first time I've been relegated to background support while Amanda and Kevin take center stage. At Kevin's graduation party, I'd spent the entire evening managing catering logistics while he received congratulations from family friends. At Amanda's housewarming, I'd been responsible for setup, coordination, and cleanup while she gave tours of her new condo to impressed guests. At Frank's 60th birthday party, I'd handled vendor coordination and day of logistics, while Amanda and Kevin gave speeches about what an amazing father he'd been to them. Each time it had been framed as me being helpful, organized, capable. Each time I'd told myself it was temporary, that family members support each other during important events. But standing in this commercial kitchen, surrounded by dirty dishes that aren't even mine, I realize I've been systematically excluded from being a celebrant at my own family's milestones. I've been cast as the person who makes sure everyone else gets to celebrate. The kitchen door opens again, and this time it's Patricia herself. She looks concerned as she approaches, her silver heels clicking against the tile floor. Jessica, honey, what are you doing back here? David said you were handling some kind of emergency, but the caterer told me everything was under control. I turned to face her, and something in my expression must alarm her because her face immediately shifts to motherly concern. Mom, did you ask me to work in the kitchen tonight? She looks genuinely confused. Work in the kitchen? Sweetheart, you're a guest here. You're my daughter? Amanda told me you specifically requested that I handle the coffee service for the toast. Frank said you trusted me to make sure everything goes perfectly. Patricia's face goes through several expressions in rapid succession: confusion, realization, and then something that looks like anger but not directed at me. I never said any such thing. Amanda organized the catering coordination, but I assumed she was handling it herself or working with the venue staff. She looks around the kitchen, taking in the piles of dishes, the industrial equipment, my stained dress. How long have you been back here? Almost an hour. Her face hardens in a way I rarely see. Patricia has always been gentle, diplomatic, the kind of person who smooths over conflicts rather than confronts them. But right now she looks like she's ready for battle. Take off that apron, she says firmly. Right now, you're coming with me. Mom, please, it's your anniversary. I don't want to cause drama. She takes the apron strings and unties them herself. Jessica Maria Martinez, you listen to me. You are not catering staff, you are not event coordination. You are my daughter, and you belong in that ballroom celebrating with us, not hidden away in a kitchen. Something in her voice, the use of my full name, the steel beneath her usual gentleness, makes me realize this isn't just about tonight. This is about a pattern she's been watching, maybe even enabling without realizing it. She takes my hand and we walk together toward the ballroom. But as we push through the swinging doors, I catch sight of Amanda near the dessert station, laughing with a group of family friends. She sees us emerging from the kitchen and her expression shifts slightly, a flicker of something that might be annoyance crossing her face before she returns to her conversation. At the head table, Frank is deep in discussion with a distinguished older man I don't recognize. As we approach, Frank glances up and smiles broadly. There are my two favorite ladies. Patricia, Chief Williams was just telling me about the new community policing initiatives. You remember Bob Williams, don't you, Jessica? He's been a family friend for years. Chief Williams extends his hand and his grip is firm and warm. Jessica, it's been too long. Patricia tells me you're doing excellent work at Thompson, Hayes and Associates. That's a respected firm. I shake his hand, suddenly aware of my appearance. Thank you, Chief Williams. Yes, I've been there for 5 years now. Thompson Hayes, he muses. That means you work with Catherine Brooks's office fairly regularly, doesn't it? The district attorney's office coordinates with them on several ongoing cases. Something in his tone suggests this isn't casual conversation. There's a professional interest there that I can't quite place. Yes, quite often. DA Brooks has been involved in several of our major cases this year. Frank looks between us with the slightly glazed expression of someone who doesn't quite follow a professional conversation but wants to appear engaged. Well, isn't this wonderful? Two of my favorite people talking shop at our celebration, but Chief Williams' attention has sharpened. Actually, Frank, I was hoping to speak with Jessica privately for a moment. Professional matter, would you mind if I borrowed her? Patricia squeezes my hand. Of course, I'll go check on the toast preparations. As she walks away, Chief Williams guides me toward a quieter corner of the ballroom. The change in his demeanor is immediate and striking. The social pleasantries disappear, replaced by the focused attention of an experienced law enforcement officer. Jessica, I need to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. In your work with Thompson Hayes, have you had any involvement with cases related to municipal contracting or construction bid processes? The question seems to come from nowhere, but something in his tone makes me answer honestly. Yes, we've handled several cases involving municipal contracts, bid rigging, conflicts of interest, that sort of thing. Why? He glances around the ballroom, his eyes settling briefly on Frank, who's now engaged in animated conversation with Kevin and several other men. Have you ever reviewed any cases specifically involving Morrison Construction? The bottom drops out of my stomach. Morrison Construction is Frank's company, the source of the family's considerable wealth, and the reason we're celebrating at this expensive venue. No, I say carefully, I don't recall any cases involving Morrison Construction specifically. Chief Williams nods, but there's something in his expression that suggests this conversation is far from over. Jessica, I want you to understand something. What I'm about to tell you is not public information yet, but given your professional position and your family connections, you deserve to know. There's an ongoing investigation into municipal contracting irregularities in Riverside Heights. Several construction companies are under scrutiny for possible bid rigging and kickback schemes. I feel the blood drain from my face. Is Morrison Construction involved? I can't discuss specifics of an ongoing investigation, but I can tell you that DA Brooks has been asking about you, about me. Why? Because your stepfather has been telling people that his stepdaughter works closely with the DA's office. He's been using your professional reputation as a character reference in some very high-stakes conversations. The implications hit me like a physical blow. Frank has been leveraging my professional credentials, my relationship with the DA's office, my reputation as a paralegal handling complex legal matters, to lend credibility to his business dealings. And I've been completely unaware of it. Chief Williams, I want to be very clear about something. I have never provided any professional services to Frank Morrison or his company, I have never discussed any cases with him, and I certainly haven't served as any kind of character reference for his business dealings. He nods grimly. I believe you. But Jessica, you need to understand the position this puts you in. Your professional reputation could be compromised by association if this situation isn't handled carefully. Around us, the anniversary celebration continues. I can see Amanda coordinating with the photographer, Kevin chatting with young women near the bar, Patricia graciously greeting guests. The beautiful, expensive, perfectly orchestrated celebration that I was relegated to supporting from the kitchen suddenly looks different. It looks like a performance, a demonstration of success and respectability funded by potentially illegal activities and bolstered by my unwitting professional endorsement. What do you need from me? I ask quietly. For now, nothing. But Jessica, if DA Brooks contacts you directly, and she probably will, you need to be completely honest with her about the extent of your involvement with Morrison Construction. And you need to protect your professional reputation. You've worked too hard to have it compromised by someone else's choices. The weight of his words settles over me as Patricia approaches with 2 champagne flutes. The toast is starting in just a few minutes, she says, handing me a glass. Jessica, you look pale. Are you feeling all right? Before I can answer, Frank appears at Patricia's side, his arm sliding around her waist possessively. There you are, Jessica. I hope Chief Williams wasn't boring you with too much shop talk. He grins at the older man. Police work and legal work, it's all very serious business, isn't it? Chief Williams' expression remains neutral, but I catch the slight tightening around his eyes. Indeed it is, Frank, very serious business. As we walk toward the main area for the toast, I catch Amanda watching me from across the room. There's something calculating in her expression, as if she's trying to figure out what Chief Williams and I were discussing. When our eyes meet, she quickly looks away, but not before I see something that looks almost like concern. The toast begins with Frank taking the microphone, his voice booming across the ballroom as he speaks about love, partnership, and building something lasting together. Patricia beams beside him, radiant in her happiness. The guests applaud, champagne glasses clink, and everyone celebrates the beautiful milestone of 30 years together. But I stand at the edge of the crowd, my champagne untouched, thinking about municipal contracts and character references, and the fact that my professional reputation has been used without my knowledge or consent to support business dealings that are now under criminal investigation. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a plan begins to form. The Monday morning sunlight streams through my apartment windows as I sit at my small kitchen table, laptop open, surrounded by legal documents that have nothing to do with my current caseload. Over the weekend, I'd gone through every file, every email, every piece of correspondence from the past 2 years, searching for any mention of Morrison Construction or Frank's business dealings. What I found was worse than I'd expected. There it was, in black and white. 3 separate instances where Frank had listed me as a professional reference on municipal bid applications. Each form included my full name, my position at Thompson, Hayes & Associates, and a notation that I was available for character verification regarding his company's integrity and legal compliance. The applications were dated over the past 18 months, all for lucrative city contracts totaling nearly $2 million in awarded projects. I'd never seen these applications before, I'd certainly never agreed to serve as a reference. But there was my information, my professional credentials, being used to vouch for business practices I knew nothing about. The implications made my hands shake as I reached for my coffee mug. My phone buzzes with a text from David. "How are you feeling about Saturday night? Still thinking about our conversation yesterday. Yesterday, after we'd left the anniversary party, I'd spent 3 hours telling David everything Chief Williams had revealed about the investigation. David, being a software engineer with a methodical mind, had helped me think through the implications systematically. His conclusion had been blunt and terrifying. I was potentially an unwitting accomplice in whatever Frank had been doing, and my silence could be interpreted as complicity. I text back, "Found something. Can you come over before work?" 20 minutes later, David is sitting across from my kitchen table, his expression growing darker as he reads through the bid applications I'd printed out. "Jessica, this is identity theft. He used your professional credentials without your consent for financial gain." "I know, but it gets worse." I pull up another document on my laptop. "Look at this email from the city planning office, dated 6 months ago." David leans forward to read the screen. The email is addressed to Frank, thanking him for providing contact information for his stepdaughter who works closely with the district attorney's office. It mentions that having a family member with direct access to legal oversight adds credibility to Morrison Construction's commitment to regulatory compliance. "Direct access to legal oversight," David reads aloud. "Jessica, he's been telling people you have influence with the DA, which I absolutely do not have. I'm a paralegal. I research cases and prepare documents. I don't have any decision-making authority, and I certainly don't have the DA's ear on municipal contract matters." David sits back in his chair, running his hands through his hair. "Okay, so what's the plan? You have to report this, right?" The question I'd been dreading. Reporting Frank's misuse of my credentials would likely destroy my mother's marriage and devastate her personally. But not reporting it could destroy my career and potentially make me complicit in whatever illegal activities were under investigation. "I called in sick today," I tell him. "I need to figure out how to handle this before Chief Williams decides I'm part of the problem instead of part of the solution." My phone rings, and the caller ID makes my stomach drop. Thompson, Hayes and Associates, specifically Michael Thompson's direct line. "Jessica Martinez speaking." "Jessica, it's Michael. I need you in my office as soon as possible. Something urgent has come up regarding your family connections." The line goes dead before I can respond. David and I look at each other across the table, and I know we're both thinking the same thing. The investigation has reached my workplace. 45 minutes later, I'm sitting in Michael Thompson's corner office, trying to project calm professionalism while my hands shake in my lap. Michael is pacing behind his desk, a habit he only engages in when dealing with serious legal complications. "Jessica, I received a very interesting phone call this morning from District Attorney Brooks. She wants to schedule a meeting with you regarding your family's business interests." I take a careful breath. "Mr. Thompson, I think there may be some confusion about my involvement with my stepfather's business. I've never provided any professional services to Morrison Construction." He stops pacing and looks at me directly. "That's what I told her. But apparently Frank Morrison has been using your name and professional affiliation as a reference for municipal contract applications. DA Brooks wants to clarify the extent of your involvement before this investigation moves forward." The weight of the situation settles heavily in the room. Michael Thompson built this firm on reputation and integrity. Having a paralegal potentially connected to a municipal corruption case could damage everything he's worked to build. "Michael, I want to be completely transparent with you. I discovered over the weekend that Frank has been listing me as a professional reference without my knowledge or consent. I have documentation showing that I never agreed to vouch for his company's practices." His expression softens slightly. "Show me." I pull out copies of the bid applications and the email correspondence I'd compiled. Michael reviews them carefully, his lawyer's mind processing the implications systematically. "This is actually good news for you professionally," he says finally. "The documentation clearly shows you had no knowledge of his claims. But Jessica, this puts you in a difficult position personally. Your stepfather has essentially committed identity fraud using your credentials." "I know, the question is what I do about it." Michael sits down across from me, his expression shifting from boss to mentor. "What do you want to do about it?" The question catches me off guard. In the chaos of discovery and implications, I haven't really considered what I actually want to happen. I've been focused on damage control and professional protection, but not on what outcome would feel just. I want him to stop using my name and credentials without permission. I want my professional reputation protected. And I want my mother to understand what's been happening without destroying her happiness. Those are reasonable goals, but Jessica, you need to understand that once DA Brooks interviews you, this investigation will likely accelerate. If Morrison Construction has been involved in bid rigging or kickback schemes, Frank could face serious criminal charges. The reality hits me fully for the first time. This isn't just about my professional reputation or family dynamics. Frank could go to prison. My mother could lose her home, her financial security, her entire life as she knows it. The anniversary celebration I'd been excluded from working in the kitchen could be one of the last happy memories she has for a very long time. When does DA Brooks want to meet? This afternoon. 2 o'clock. I spend the morning preparing for what could be the most important interview of my professional life. I compile every document showing my lack of involvement with Morrison Construction, every email demonstrating my ignorance of Frank's business practices, every piece of evidence that could protect my career and reputation. But as I sit in the DA's office waiting room at 1:55 p.m., I realize I'm also preparing for something else. I'm preparing to tell the truth about a man who married my mother, who provided financial stability for our family, who helped put me through college, and who has systematically used my achievements and professional credentials to support potentially illegal business activities. DA Catherine Brooks is younger than I expected, probably mid-40s, with sharp eyes and a direct manner that suggests she doesn't waste time on pleasantries. Her office is spartanly decorated but impeccably organized. Law books and case files arranged with military precision. "Miss Martinez, thank you for coming in. I understand this is a difficult situation given your family relationships. Thank you for meeting with me, DA Brooks. I want to be completely cooperative with your investigation." She opens a thick file folder and pulls out several documents I recognize. The municipal bid applications with my name listed as a reference. "Let's start with these. Can you tell me about your involvement in providing professional references for Morrison Construction's municipal contract applications?" "I had no involvement whatsoever. I was unaware that my name and professional credentials were being used until this weekend." "You weren't consulted before your information was included?" "No. I've never seen these applications before today, and I certainly never agreed to serve as a character reference for Morrison Construction's business practices." DA Brooks makes notes as I speak, her expression neutral but attentive. "Martinez, your stepfather has told several city officials that his stepdaughter works closely with my office and can vouch for his company's legal compliance. Can you explain that claim?" The question I'd been dreading most. "That claim is completely false. While I do work on cases that occasionally coordinate with your office, I have no decision-making authority and no influence over municipal contracting decisions. I would never use my professional position to benefit family members' business interests." She nods approvingly. "That's exactly what I hoped you'd say. Miss Martinez, you should know that we've been monitoring Morrison Construction for 8 months. Your stepfather's claims about family connections to law enforcement and the DA's office initially raised red flags, but our investigation of you confirmed that you had no knowledge of his activities. Relief washes over me so powerfully that I feel dizzy. So my professional reputation isn't in jeopardy? Not from our perspective. However, there is something else I need to discuss with you. She pulls out another set of documents. "We have evidence suggesting that Morrison Construction has been involved in a kickback scheme with certain city planning officials. The contracts your stepfather won using your name as a reference were awarded through fraudulent bidding processes. The room seems to tilt slightly. Not only had Frank used my credentials without permission, but he'd used them to support genuinely criminal activities. What does this mean for my family? That depends partly on your stepfather's cooperation with our investigation. But Miss Martinez, I need to ask you directly. Are you willing to testify about his unauthorized use of your professional credentials if this case goes to trial? The question hangs in the air like a sword over everything I thought I knew about my family loyalty and professional integrity. Testifying against Frank would mean publicly acknowledging that my stepfather committed identity fraud using my credentials. It would mean potentially sending him to prison. It would mean devastating my mother and possibly destroying the financial security she's built with him over 30 years. But it would also mean protecting my professional reputation and ensuring that other people can't use my credentials for illegal activities in the future. Yes, I hear myself saying, if it comes to that, I'll testify. D.A. Brooks closes the file folder and looks at me with what might be respect. Miss Martinez, I want you to understand something. Your stepfather put you in an impossible position by using your credentials without consent. You're not responsible for his choices and you're not obligated to protect him from the consequences of those choices. Walking back to my office, I feel simultaneously liberated and terrified. The investigation will proceed with or without my cooperation, but now I'm officially on the side of law enforcement rather than potentially complicit in Frank's schemes. My professional reputation is protected, but my family relationships are about to be tested in ways I never imagined. My phone buzzes with a text from Amanda. Mom wants to have lunch this week to talk about how beautiful Saturday was. Are you free Thursday? I stare at the message, thinking about everything that's happened since Saturday's beautiful anniversary celebration. Amanda, who had relegated me to kitchen duty while she posed for family photos. Patricia, who had been genuinely horrified to find me washing dishes in a commercial kitchen. Frank, who had used my professional credentials to support criminal activities while treating me like hired help at his anniversary party. Thursday lunch with my mother, where I'll have to decide how much of this I can tell her without destroying everything she believes about the man she's been married to for 30 years. I text back, yes, I'm free Thursday. Looking forward to it, but as I walk back into Thompson, Hayes and Associates, I know that Thursday's lunch conversation will be unlike any I've ever had with my mother, because now I understand that the family dynamics I've been tolerating, the relegation to support staff while Amanda and Kevin take center stage, the assumption that I'll handle logistics while they enjoy celebrations isn't just about family roles and expectations. It's been part of a larger pattern where my professional achievements and credentials have been systematically exploited for other people's benefit. Frank didn't just treat me like kitchen staff at his anniversary party. He's been treating my entire professional identity like a resource he can use without permission to advance his business interests. That evening, David and I sit on my apartment's small balcony sharing takeout Chinese food and trying to process everything that's happened in the past few days. So what's the timeline now? He asks, twirling lo mein around his chopsticks. D.A. Brooks said the investigation is moving quickly. They're planning to execute search warrants on Morrison Construction's offices within the next 2 weeks. After that, formal charges will likely be filed within a month. David nods thoughtfully. And you're having lunch with your mom on Thursday? Yeah, I have to tell her something, David. I can't let her be blindsided when FBI agents show up at their house with search warrants. But you also can't compromise the investigation by giving her information she might share with Frank. The impossible balance I'm trying to maintain, protecting my mother while supporting law enforcement, maintaining family relationships while defending my professional integrity, being loyal without being complicit. What would you do? I ask him, David sets down his chopsticks and looks at me seriously. I'd tell her the truth about what I found regarding my professional credentials being used without permission. I'd explain that I'm cooperating with an investigation because I have to protect my career, and I'd let her know that she might want to consult with her own attorney about protecting her personal assets. The practical approach, the one that prioritizes honesty and legal protection over emotional comfort. The one that treats my mother like an intelligent adult capable of handling difficult information. She's going to be devastated. Maybe, but Jessica, she's also going to be devastated if federal agents arrest her husband without any warning. At least this way, she has time to prepare and make informed decisions about how to protect herself. That night, I lie awake thinking about family loyalty versus professional ethics, about the difference between supporting loved ones and enabling their harmful behavior, about the line between being helpful and being exploited, and for the first time since I overheard Chief Williams' questions at the anniversary party, I begin to feel something that surprises me: relief that I no longer have to pretend I don't notice the family dynamics that have always felt wrong. Relief that I have a legitimate reason to establish boundaries around my professional credentials and personal involvement in family business matters. Relief that someone in authority has validated my instinct that something wasn't right about how Frank had been leveraging my career achievements. The pattern that started with washing dishes in the country club kitchen while my step-siblings posed for family photos has finally been exposed for what it really was: systematic exploitation of my professional reputation and personal willingness to support family members, regardless of the cost to my own interests and integrity. Thursday's lunch with Patricia can't come soon enough. For the first time in years, I'm going to have a conversation with my mother, where I prioritize truth over keeping the peace, where I protect my professional future over protecting Frank's reputation, where I act like the respected paralegal I've worked 5 years to become rather than the accommodating stepdaughter I've been conditioned to be. The anniversary party where I was treated like staff while my family celebrated was the last time I'll accept being relegated to the background of my own family's story, because now I understand that the real story isn't about who gets to pose for photos or who has to work in the kitchen. The real story is about who gets to use whose achievements for personal gain, and who finally decides to stop letting it happen. Thursday arrives with unseasonably warm weather for October, and I meet Patricia at Riverside Cafe, a quiet restaurant downtown that she chose because it's equidistant from her house, and my office. She's already seated at a corner table when I arrive, wearing a soft pink sweater and looking more rested than I've seen her in months. The anniversary celebration clearly meant a lot to her, and she's still glowing from the happiness of that evening. "Jessica, darling, you look tired. Are you getting enough sleep?" She stands to hug me, and I'm struck by how small she feels in my arms. At 55, Patricia is still energetic and vibrant, but there's a fragility to her that I haven't noticed before. Maybe it's because I'm seeing her through the lens of what I'm about to tell her. We order our usual lunch: grilled chicken salad for her, soup and sandwich for me, and she launches immediately into recounting highlights from Saturday's party. The speech Frank gave that made her cry happy tears, the way her college roommate flew in from Seattle as a surprise, the moment when they played their wedding song and everyone joined them on the dance floor. It was everything I dreamed it would be, she says, her face radiant. 30 years, Jessica. Can you believe Frank and I have been together for 30 years? It feels like yesterday and forever at the same time. I sip my iced tea and try to find the right words to transition from her happiness to the conversation we need to have. There's no gentle way to tell your mother that her husband of 30 years has been committing identity fraud using her daughter's professional credentials. Mom, I need to talk to you about something serious. Something involving Frank's business. Her expression shifts immediately, the joy fading into concern. Is everything all right? You sound so formal. I discovered this weekend that Frank has been using my name and professional credentials as references for his municipal contract applications without my knowledge or permission. Patricia sets down her fork and stares at me. What do you mean using your credentials? I pull out copies of the documents I'd shown D.A. Brooks and Michael Thompson. These are bid applications for city contracts. Frank listed me as a professional reference, claiming I could vouch for Morrison Construction's integrity and legal compliance. He also told city officials that I work closely with the district attorney's office and have influence over municipal contracting decisions. She reads through the documents slowly, her face growing pale. Jessica, I had no idea he was doing this. Are you sure these are legitimate documents? I got them directly from the city planning office. Mom, there are 3 separate applications over 18 months, totaling nearly $2 million in awarded contracts. Frank has been systematically using my professional reputation to support his business dealings. Patricia looks up from the papers, and I can see her trying to process the implications. But surely this is just a misunderstanding. Frank is so proud of your career, he talks about you constantly. Maybe he thought you wouldn't mind being listed as a reference. The instinct to protect him, to rationalize his behavior, to find an innocent explanation for what is clearly fraudulent activity. I recognize it because I'd done the same thing initially, looking for ways to excuse or minimize what Frank had done. Mom, using someone's professional credentials without their permission for financial gain is identity fraud. It's a serious crime, and there's more. I tell her about Chief Williams' warnings at the anniversary party, about the ongoing investigation into municipal contracting irregularities, about my meeting with D.A. Brooks and the evidence of kickback schemes involving Morrison Construction. With each revelation, Patricia seems to shrink further into her chair. By the time I finish explaining the scope of the investigation, she looks like a different person from the radiant woman who had been recounting anniversary memories just minutes before. Are you saying Frank could be arrested? Yes. D.A. Brooks indicated that formal charges will likely be filed within the next month. They're planning to execute search warrants on Morrison Construction's offices within 2 weeks. Patricia stares at her untouched salad, and I watch 30 years of financial security and emotional stability crumble in real time. The house they bought together, the comfortable retirement they'd been planning, the reputation Frank had built in the community, all of it potentially about to disappear. Jessica, what should I do? The question I'd been dreading and hoping for simultaneously. She's asking for my advice, treating me as an adult whose professional judgment she trusts, rather than as a daughter she needs to protect from difficult realities. You should consult with your own attorney about protecting your personal assets. If Frank is convicted of criminal charges, there could be financial penalties and civil lawsuits that affect jointly held property. She nods slowly, her lawyer's daughter understanding the practical implications immediately. What about you? Are you in legal trouble because of this? No, D.A. Brooks confirmed that I'm not under investigation. My cooperation with law enforcement and the documentation showing I had no knowledge of Frank's activities protect me professionally. But it puts you in a terrible position personally. You're essentially testifying against your stepfather. The heart of the dilemma laid bare. Mom, Frank put me in this position when he chose to use my professional credentials without permission. I'm not testifying against him out of malice or revenge. I'm protecting my career and ensuring that my professional reputation can't be exploited for illegal activities. Patricia reaches across the table and takes my hand. I'm so sorry, Jessica. I had no idea this was happening. Frank never mentioned using your name for business purposes, and I certainly never gave him permission to do so. I know you didn't. But Mom, there's something else we need to discuss. The way I was treated at Saturday's anniversary party. Her grip on my hand tightens. You mean being asked to help with the catering? I spent over an hour washing dishes in the kitchen while Amanda and Kevin posed for family photos and socialized with guests. Frank specifically told me that family helps family and referenced my organizational skills at the law firm. Amanda told me you had specifically requested that I handle the coffee service for the toast. Patricia's face flushes with anger. I never made any such request. I was horrified when I found you in that kitchen. Jessica, you're my daughter. You should have been celebrating with us, not working as kitchen staff. But it's part of a pattern, Mom. At Kevin's graduation party, I handled all the catering coordination. At Amanda's housewarming, I managed setup and cleanup. At Frank's 60th birthday, I coordinated vendors and logistics while Amanda and Kevin gave speeches. Every family celebration, I'm relegated to background support while they take center stage. She's quiet for a long moment, thinking, "You're right. I've noticed it, but I told myself you were just being helpful, that you enjoyed organizing events. I didn't realize you felt excluded from the celebrations themselves. I felt like hired help at your anniversary party, Mom. While you and Frank were dancing to your wedding song, I was in a commercial kitchen wearing an apron I didn't remember putting on, scrubbing dishes that weren't even mine." Tears start forming in Patricia's eyes. "Oh, Jessica, I'm so sorry. I should have been more aware, should have protected you from being taken advantage of. It's not your fault, but I need you to understand that I can't continue being the family member who handles logistics while everyone else gets to be guests at the celebrations. Especially now that I know Frank has been using my professional achievements to support business activities that are under criminal investigation." Our conversation is interrupted by Patricia's phone buzzing with a text message. She glances at it and frowns. It's Amanda. She wants to know if we can all get together this weekend to plan Kevin's birthday party next month. I look at my mother across the table, this woman who raised me to be independent and professionally successful, who worked as a teacher for 25 years before marrying Frank, who deserves to enjoy her retirement without discovering that her husband is potentially a criminal. "Mom, I won't be planning Kevin's birthday party. I won't be coordinating vendors or managing logistics or working behind the scenes while everyone else celebrates. If Kevin wants a party, Amanda can organize it herself." Patricia nods slowly. "That's fair. That's more than fair. Jessica, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest. Do you think Frank deliberately manipulated family dynamics to keep you in a supporting role while using your professional success for his business benefit?" The question goes to the heart of everything I've been trying to understand. Was Frank's treatment of me at family events connected to his exploitation of my professional credentials? Was I systematically relegated to background roles to maintain the illusion that I was primarily valuable for support services, rather than as an equal family member with my own achievements and interests? I think Frank has always seen my professional success as something that could benefit him, whether through credibility for his business or through my organizational skills at family events. I don't think he ever saw me as someone whose career and reputation needed to be protected from his exploitation. Patricia sits back in her chair processing this assessment, which means Amanda and Kevin have been benefiting from a family dynamic where you provide support services while they get to be the celebrated children. Yes. And now that I understand how my professional reputation has been misused, I can't continue accepting being treated like family support staff rather than as an accomplished professional in my own right. We sit in comfortable silence for several minutes, both of us processing the implications of everything we've discussed. Finally, Patricia pulls out her phone and starts typing. "What are you doing?" Texting Amanda back. "I'm telling her that if Kevin wants a birthday party, she'll need to organize it herself, and I'm suggesting that she might want to spend some time thinking about how family members should treat each other with respect and appreciation." She shows me the text before sending it. "Amanda, Jessica won't be available to help with Kevin's party planning. You'll need to handle the coordination yourself. Also, I think our family needs to have a conversation about ensuring everyone feels valued and appreciated rather than taken for granted. Love, Mom." Are you sure you want to send that? "I'm sure, Jessica. I may not be able to protect you from the legal complications Frank has created, but I can certainly make sure you're not exploited for party planning services while dealing with those complications." She hits send and almost immediately her phone starts ringing. Amanda's name appears on the caller ID. "I'm not answering that right now," Patricia says, declining the call. Amanda can process her feelings about party planning without my immediate attention. Walking back to my office after lunch, I feel a shift in my relationship with Patricia that's been years in the making. For the first time, she's prioritized my professional well-being and personal dignity over family harmony and Amanda's expectations. She's acknowledged that I've been systematically taken advantage of and committed to changing those dynamics. But I also feel the weight of what's coming. Within 2 weeks, federal agents will execute search warrants on Morrison Construction. Within a month, Frank will likely be arrested on criminal charges. The comfortable life Patricia has built over 30 years will be shattered, and there's nothing I can do to prevent that devastation. My phone buzzes with multiple texts from Amanda, increasingly frantic in tone. The first one reads, "What did you say to Mom? She's being completely unreasonable about Kevin's party." The second, "This is ridiculous, Jess. You've always helped with family events." The third, "Fine, but don't expect me to help with anything for you in the future." I read through Amanda's messages and realized they perfectly encapsulate the family dynamic I'm finally stepping away from. The assumption that I should provide services without question, the anger when I establish boundaries, the threat to withdraw support that was never actually offered in the first place. I don't respond to any of Amanda's texts. Instead, I call David. "How did lunch go?" "Better than I expected. Mom understands the situation and supports my decision to cooperate with the investigation. She also acknowledged the family dynamics that have been bothering me and committed to changing them." That's huge, Jess. How are you feeling? Scared about what's going to happen to Frank and Mom, but also relieved that I don't have to pretend anymore that everything is fine with how I've been treated. And Amanda's probably losing her mind that you're not available to plan Kevin's party, currently sending me angry texts about being unreasonable and uncooperative. David laughs. "Let me guess. She's suddenly discovered that party planning is actually work, and she doesn't want to do it herself." Exactly. 28 years old, works in marketing for a living but somehow incapable of organizing a birthday party without her stepsister's logistical support. That evening, I'm home reviewing case files for my actual job when my doorbell rings. Through the peephole, I see Kevin standing on my porch, looking uncomfortable and slightly sheepish. "Kevin, what are you doing here? Can I come in? I want to talk about this weekend thing." I let him in, curious about what approach he'll take. Kevin has always been the more reasonable of my two step-siblings, less manipulative than Amanda but equally accustomed to my organizational support for family events. "Amanda said you're refusing to help with my birthday party because you're mad about something that happened at Dad and Patricia's anniversary." I gesture for him to sit on my couch while I remain standing. "Kevin, I'm not mad. I'm establishing boundaries. I won't be providing event planning services for family celebrations while also being expected to work behind the scenes instead of participating as a guest." He looks genuinely confused. "But you're so good at organizing things. And you always seem to enjoy handling the details. Did I seem to enjoy scrubbing dishes in the country club kitchen while you and Amanda posed for family photos?" Kevin has the grace to look embarrassed. "I didn't realize you were doing dishes. Amanda said you were handling some kind of catering emergency." "There was no catering emergency. Amanda told me Mom had specifically requested that I handle the coffee service, which wasn't true." Then Frank came into the kitchen and talked about family helping family while I spent over an hour washing dishes and managing kitchen logistics. "Okay, that's not right. You should have been at the party with everyone else." "Exactly. And Kevin, this isn't the first time. At your graduation party I coordinated all the catering while you celebrated with friends and family. At Amanda's housewarming I handled setup and cleanup while she gave tours to guests. Every family event, I'm working while you and Amanda are socializing." Kevin sits quietly for a moment, and I can see him thinking through past family celebrations from this perspective. "I never thought about it that way. I guess I just assumed you preferred handling the organizational stuff. I prefer being treated like a family member rather than like event staff." "Kevin, I'm a paralegal with 5 years of experience handling complex legal cases. I'm not a party planning service for family events. So what do you want me to do about my birthday? Plan it yourself, or ask Amanda to help you, or hire an actual event planner, but don't expect me to handle logistics while you celebrate." Kevin nods slowly. "That's fair. Jessica, I'm sorry if we've been taking advantage of your help. I honestly didn't realize how one-sided it had become." The apology surprises me. Unlike Amanda's angry texts about my unreasonableness, Kevin seems genuinely willing to acknowledge that family dynamics have been unfair. Thank you for saying that, Kevin. I want to maintain good relationships with you and Amanda, but not at the expense of being treated like support staff, rather than as an equal family member. I get it. And Jess, about Dad using your work credentials for his business stuff, that's really messed up. You shouldn't have to deal with that. I study Kevin's face, wondering how much he knows about Morrison Construction's business practices and the ongoing investigation, but something in his expression suggests his concern is genuine rather than strategic. It's been a difficult situation to navigate. I bet Dad never mentioned using your name for business things. If I'd known, I would have told him it wasn't okay. After Kevin leaves, I call Patricia to update her on the conversation. I'm proud of you for standing your ground with Kevin, she says, and I'm glad he apologized. It gives me hope that we can repair these family dynamics without completely destroying relationships. Mom, what are you going to do about Frank? She's quiet for a long moment. I called a divorce attorney this afternoon. I'm not making any decisions yet, but I need to understand my options for protecting myself financially if he's convicted of criminal charges. The weight of this conversation settles over both of us. Patricia is preparing for the possibility that her marriage of 30 years might not survive Frank's legal troubles and his misuse of my professional credentials. Are you okay? No, I'm not okay, but I'm not going to bury my head in the sand and pretend this isn't happening. If Frank has been committing crimes using your professional reputation, then he's put both of us at risk, and I need to protect us both. That night, I lie awake thinking about family loyalty versus self-protection, about the difference between supporting loved ones and enabling harmful behavior. Patricia has chosen to prioritize truth and legal protection over emotional comfort, even though it means potentially ending her marriage and losing her financial security. And for the first time since this whole situation began, I don't feel guilty about cooperating with the investigation or establishing boundaries with my step-siblings. I feel like I'm finally acting like the professional I've worked 5 years to become, rather than the accommodating family member I've been conditioned to be. Tomorrow, DA Brooks will likely move forward with search warrants. Within days, Frank's business practices will be under federal scrutiny, and the comfortable family dynamics that have sustained us for years will be permanently altered. But tonight, I'm not washing dishes in someone else's kitchen while my family celebrates without me. I'm not planning parties for people who treat me like event staff. I'm not allowing my professional credentials to be exploited for activities I know nothing about. Tonight, I'm Jessica Martinez, respected paralegal, dutiful daughter, and finally a family member who refuses to be taken advantage of anymore. The following Tuesday morning arrives with an urgency that makes my coffee taste bitter, and my hands shake as I scroll through news alerts on my phone. The headline in the Riverside Heights Tribune makes my stomach drop. Federal agents execute search warrants at local construction company. The accompanying photo shows FBI agents carrying boxes out of Morrison Construction's offices while Frank stands in the parking lot, his face a mask of controlled fury. My phone starts ringing immediately. Patricia's name on the caller ID. Jessica, are you seeing the news? I'm looking at it now. Mom, are you okay? Are you safe? I'm at Eleanor's house next door. The agents came to the house around 6 this morning with a search warrant for Frank's home office and any documents related to Morrison Construction. He's not handling this well. I can hear the strain in her voice, the careful way she's choosing her words to avoid saying something she might regret later. Do you need me to come over? No, stay at work. Normal routine is better right now. But Jessica, Frank knows you cooperated with the investigation. He's angry, and he's saying things about family loyalty and betrayal. The implication hangs heavy between us. Frank has connected my cooperation with DA Brooks to the federal investigation, and he's not happy about it. Mom, I need you to understand something. I protected my professional reputation and cooperated with law enforcement because I had to. Frank put me in this position when he chose to use my credentials without permission. I know, sweetheart. I know you did the right thing. But right now, Frank is looking for someone to blame and you're an easy target because you're not here to defend yourself. At my office, the atmosphere is tense in a way that makes me realize news of the federal investigation has reached my colleagues. Michael Thompson's assistant gives me a sympathetic look as I pass her desk, and I catch two junior associates whispering near the break room, their conversation stopping abruptly when they notice me. Michael calls me into his office before I've even had a chance to check my email. "Jessica, I wanted you to know that DA Brooks called this morning to inform me about the search warrants executed on Morrison Construction. She wanted to reassure me that your cooperation with the investigation reflects positively on your professional integrity." I sink into the chair across from his desk, feeling simultaneously relieved and exhausted. "Thank you for telling me that I've been worried about how this situation might affect my standing at the firm. Your standing is solid. If anything, your handling of this situation demonstrates exactly the kind of ethical judgment we value in our paralegals. You protected the firm's reputation while cooperating fully with law enforcement, the validation I desperately needed to hear, but Michael's expression suggests there's more to this conversation. However, I want you to be prepared for the possibility that this case will receive significant media attention. Municipal corruption cases involving federal investigations tend to attract reporters, especially when they involve well-known local businesses. The thought of reporters asking questions about my family relationships and professional involvement makes my stomach clench. What should I do if media contacts me? Refer them to DA Brooks' office for any information about the investigation. Don't discuss your family relationships or your cooperation with law enforcement, and Jessica, if you need time off to deal with family complications, just let me know. Walking back to my office, I realize that my professional life has become the stable, supportive environment, while my family life has devolved into chaos and accusations. The inversion feels both strange and liberating. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. "This is Amanda. Frank told us you've been talking to the police about his business. How could you betray family like that?" I stare at the message, noting that Amanda has gotten a new phone number specifically to contact me after I stopped responding to her previous texts. The accusation of betrayal stings, but it also clarifies exactly where Amanda's loyalties lie. I don't respond. Instead, I forward the text to Patricia with a message, "Amanda's new number, she's accusing me of betraying family by cooperating with the investigation." Patricia responds within minutes, "I'm so sorry, Jessica. Frank is telling Amanda and Kevin that you caused this investigation by talking to authorities. I've tried to explain the truth, but they're not ready to hear it yet. The family fracture I'd been dreading is happening in real time. Frank is positioning me as the cause of his legal troubles rather than taking responsibility for his own choices to commit identity fraud and potentially engage in kickback schemes. Amanda and Kevin are apparently choosing to believe his version of events rather than questioning why he was using my professional credentials without permission in the first place." That evening, David and I are preparing dinner in my apartment when there's aggressive knocking at my door. Through the peephole, I see Frank standing on my porch, his face flushed with anger and his posture radiating barely contained rage. "Don't answer it," David says immediately, moving to stand beside me. "Frank, I know you're in there," comes his voice through the door. "We need to talk about this situation you've created." "The situation I've created." The complete inversion of responsibility that makes my hands shake with anger. "Jessica, open this door right now. Family doesn't hide from family." David pulls out his phone. "I'm calling the police. This feels like harassment." "Wait," I say, making a decision that surprises myself. "Frank, I'll talk to you, but only with my attorney present. If you want to have a conversation about this situation, we can schedule it through proper legal channels." "Legal channels?" His voice rises. "I'm your stepfather. I've supported you through college, helped you get established in your career, treated you like my own daughter. And this is how you repay me." The manipulation is so blatant, so perfectly crafted to make me feel guilty for protecting myself, that it actually helps clarify my thinking. "Frank, you used my professional credentials for business purposes without my permission. That's identity fraud. I cooperated with law enforcement to protect my career and my reputation. If that cooperation revealed illegal activities, that's a consequence of your choices, not mine." "Illegal activities?" He sounds genuinely outraged. Morrison Construction has been operating legitimately for 15 years. Any investigation will prove that these accusations are baseless. Then you have nothing to worry about. But Frank, I won't allow my professional reputation to be compromised by your business practices, whatever they turn out to be. There's a long silence on the other side of the door. When Frank speaks again, his voice has changed, becoming colder and more calculating. Jessica, you need to think very carefully about the consequences of your decisions. Your mother's financial security, your relationship with Amanda and Kevin, your standing in this community, all of it depends on family loyalty. Don't destroy everything over some misunderstanding about business references. The threat is unmistakable, delivered with the kind of calculated precision that makes me realize Frank has been planning this conversation carefully. Frank, this conversation is over. If you want to discuss anything further, contact my attorney. You don't have an attorney, Jessica. You're a paralegal, not a lawyer. I'll get one. Now please leave my property. After several more minutes of silence, I hear his footsteps retreating down the porch steps and his car door slamming. David and I stand by the door for another 10 minutes, listening before I finally feel safe enough to move away from the peephole. Jess, that was straight up intimidation. He was trying to scare you into withdrawing your cooperation with the investigation. I know, and David, he's probably going to continue escalating the pressure. This isn't going to end with one conversation on my doorstep. That night I call Patricia to tell her about Frank's visit. Oh no, Jessica. I was afraid he might do something like that. He's been ranting all day about family betrayal and how you've destroyed everything he worked to build. Mom, I need to ask you something directly. Do you believe that I caused Frank's legal troubles by cooperating with the investigation? No, absolutely not. Frank caused his own troubles by using your credentials without permission and potentially engaging in illegal business practices. Your cooperation with law enforcement was the right thing to do professionally and ethically. The support I needed to hear, but I can tell from her voice that she's paying a price for defending me. Is Frank pressuring you to choose sides in this situation? She's quiet for a long moment. Yes. He's demanding that I tell you to retract your cooperation with the investigation and claim that you gave him permission to use your credentials as references. And if you don't, he's threatening to divorce me and leave me with nothing. He says that if I choose you over him, I'll lose my home, my financial security, and my relationship with Amanda and Kevin. The same financial and emotional manipulation he'd tried on me, now directed at Patricia. The realization that Frank views family relationships as leverage for controlling people's behavior makes me feel sick. Mom, what are you going to do? I'm going to choose truth over comfort, Jessica. Even if it costs me everything. 2 days later, the situation escalates dramatically. I'm at work when Patricia calls, her voice tight with panic. Jessica, Frank was arrested this morning, federal charges for conspiracy, fraud, and kickback schemes involving municipal contracts. It's all over the local news. I pull up news websites on my computer and sure enough, there's Frank's booking photo next to headlines about corruption and federal investigations. The scope of the charges is broader than I'd expected, involving not just the identity fraud using my credentials but systematic bribery and bid rigging going back several years. Mom, where are you? Are you safe? I'm at the divorce attorney's office. Frank called me from jail demanding that I mortgage the house to pay for his legal defense. I told him I wouldn't do it. The final break, 30 years of marriage, ended by Frank's demand that Patricia sacrifice her financial security to fund his defense against criminal charges he incurred, partly by exploiting my professional reputation. I'm proud of you, Mom. I'm scared, Jessica. But I'm also relieved. Living with someone who treats family members like resources to be exploited isn't really living at all. That afternoon, Amanda calls my office directly, bypassing my personal phone. Jessica, this is Amanda. I need to talk to you about Dad's situation. Amanda, I can't discuss the investigation or my cooperation with law enforcement. I'm not calling about the investigation, I'm calling about family loyalty. Dad is in jail, Mom is filing for divorce, and Kevin and I feel like our family is falling apart because you chose law enforcement over family. The accusation hangs in the air, as manipulative and unfair as Frank's threats had been. Amanda, your father put himself in jail by choosing to commit crimes using my professional credentials. I protected my career by cooperating with law enforcement. Those are the facts. But you could have handled this privately within the family. You could have told Dad to stop using your name without involving the police. Frank had been using my credentials for 18 months without my knowledge. The investigation was already underway when I found out about it. My cooperation protected me professionally and legally. So your career is more important than family? The question designed to make me feel guilty for prioritizing my professional integrity over enabling Frank's criminal behavior. Amanda, my career is how I support myself financially and contribute professionally to my community. Frank's exploitation of my credentials threatened everything I've worked 5 years to build. Yes, protecting that was more important than covering up his illegal activities. Fine, but don't expect Kevin and me to forgive you for this. You've destroyed our family. The conversation ends with Amanda hanging up, leaving me staring at my phone and realizing that the family fracture is complete. Frank is in jail facing federal charges. Patricia is filing for divorce to protect herself financially. Amanda and Kevin blame me for destroying the family by refusing to be complicit in Frank's crimes. But as I sit in my office surrounded by case files for legitimate legal work, I realize something important. The family I've lost wasn't really a family at all. It was a system where my achievements were exploited. My professional reputation was used without permission, and my role was to provide support services while others enjoyed the benefits of celebration and recognition. The family I'm building now with Patricia's support and David's partnership is based on mutual respect, honest communication, and protection of each other's interests rather than exploitation of each other's resources. That evening, Patricia calls with an update on her legal consultation. The divorce attorney says I can protect the house and my retirement savings because Frank's illegal activities constitute fraud that invalidated our joint financial agreements. I won't be left with nothing. That's wonderful news, Mom. Jessica, I want you to know something. Choosing to support you in this situation was the easiest decision I've made in years. Frank treated you like an employee rather than a daughter, and he used your success to benefit himself without regard for the consequences to you. That's not love, that's exploitation. For the first time in weeks, I feel tears of relief rather than stress. Thank you for saying that. I've been worried that I was being selfish for putting my career ahead of family harmony. You were being self-protective. And Jessica, real family members protect each other rather than exploit each other. Frank forgot that distinction, but I never will again. That night, David and I sit on my apartment balcony sharing a bottle of wine and watching the sunset over the city skyline. So where do you think you'll be a year from now? He asks. Professionally stronger. Personally clearer about boundaries, and probably planning my own celebrations instead of working in other people's kitchens. David raises his wine glass. To Jessica Martinez, respected paralegal, protective daughter, and finally a family member who refuses to be anyone's kitchen staff. I clink my glass against his, thinking about the anniversary party that started this entire transformation. How fitting that a celebration where I was treated like hired help became the catalyst for establishing my value as a professional and as a family member. Frank's federal charges will proceed through the courts. Patricia's divorce will finalize within months. Amanda and Kevin will need to process their feelings about family loyalty versus ethical behavior without my organizational support for their emotional drama. But tonight I'm not scrubbing dishes while other people dance to their wedding song. I'm not coordinating logistics while other people celebrate milestones. I'm not allowing my professional credentials to be exploited for activities I can't vouch for. Tonight I'm Jessica Martinez, and for the first time in years that's exactly who I choose to be. 6 months have passed since Frank's arrest, and I'm sitting in a federal courthouse listening to testimony in United States v. Frank Morrison et al. The et al. Includes 3 city planning officials and 2 other construction company owners, all part of what the prosecutor describes as a systematic scheme to manipulate municipal contract bidding through bribery and kickback arrangements. My testimony was scheduled for yesterday and it lasted 4 hours. DA Brooks had prepared me thoroughly. But nothing quite prepares you for the experience of facing your stepfather's defense attorney while explaining how your professional credentials were used without your knowledge to support illegal activities. Frank's lawyer, an expensive criminal defense attorney named Harrison Cole, had tried to paint me as a disgruntled family member seeking revenge against a stepfather who had supported my education and career advancement. The strategy fell apart when DA Brooks presented documentation showing that I'd been completely unaware of Frank's use of my name and credentials and that my cooperation with the investigation had been motivated by professional self-protection rather than personal vendetta. Miss Martinez, Cole had asked during cross-examination, isn't it true that you felt overshadowed by your step-siblings at family events and resented Mr. Morrison's success? No, I'd replied calmly, having practiced this response with DA Brooks. I felt exploited when my professional credentials were used without my permission to support business activities I knew nothing about. My cooperation with this investigation was to protect my career and ensure my reputation couldn't be misused for illegal purposes. But you've benefited significantly from Mr. Morrison's financial support over the years, haven't you? Frank Morrison helped pay for my college education, which I'm grateful for. However, financial support doesn't give someone the right to commit. 6 months have passed since Frank's arrest, and I'm sitting in a federal courthouse listening to testimony in United States v. Frank Morrison et al. The et al. Includes 3 city planning officials and 2 other construction company owners, all part of what the prosecutor describes as a systematic scheme to manipulate municipal contract bidding through bribery and kickback arrangements. My testimony was scheduled for yesterday and it lasted 4 hours. DA Brooks had prepared me thoroughly. But nothing quite prepares you for the experience of facing your stepfather's defense attorney while explaining how your professional credentials were used without your knowledge to support illegal activities. Frank's lawyer, an expensive criminal defense attorney named Harrison Cole, had tried to paint me as a disgruntled family member seeking revenge against a stepfather who had supported my education and career advancement. The strategy fell apart when DA Brooks presented documentation showing that I'd been completely unaware of Frank's use of my name and credentials and that my cooperation with the investigation had been motivated by professional self-protection rather than personal vendetta. Miss Martinez, Cole had asked during cross-examination, isn't it true that you felt overshadowed by your step-siblings at family events and resented Mr. Morrison's success? No, I'd replied calmly, having practiced this response with DA Brooks. I felt exploited when my professional credentials were used without my permission to support business activities I knew nothing about. My cooperation with this investigation was to protect my career and ensure my reputation couldn't be misused for illegal purposes. But you've benefited significantly from Mr. Morrison's financial support over the years, haven't you? Frank Morrison helped pay for my college education, which I'm grateful for. However, financial support doesn't give someone the right to commit identity fraud using my professional credentials. The exchange had been uncomfortable but necessary. Frank sat at the defendant's table throughout my testimony, his expression shifting between anger and what might have been hurt. At one point, when I detailed finding his unauthorized use of my credentials, I saw him shake his head and whisper something to his attorney. But I also noticed something else. He never looked surprised by my testimony. He knew exactly what he'd done and he'd been caught. Today I'm back in the courthouse as a spectator, watching the prosecution present their case against the entire conspiracy. The evidence is overwhelming. Recorded phone conversations between Frank and city officials discussing contract awards in exchange for cash payments. Bank records showing transfers from Morrison Construction to shell companies controlled by planning department employees. Email chains coordinating bid rigging to ensure Morrison Construction and its co-conspirators received lucrative city contracts while legitimate competitors were systematically excluded. The most damning evidence came from Frank's own business records seized during the FBI raid 6 months ago. Detailed spreadsheets tracking payments to officials, coded references to consultation fees and administrative costs that corresponded directly to contract awards, and most significantly for my case, a folder labeled JM References containing copies of the municipal bid applications where my name and credentials were used without permission. During a break in testimony, Chief Williams finds me in the courthouse hallway. He's dressed in his formal uniform today, having testified earlier about the initial investigation that led to Frank's exposure. Jessica, I wanted to thank you again for your cooperation throughout this process. Your willingness to come forward despite the personal cost made this prosecution possible. Thank you, Chief Williams. I just did what I had to do to protect my professional integrity. He nods approvingly. That kind of ethical thinking is exactly what we need more of in municipal contracting. Your reputation in the legal community has actually been enhanced by how you handled this situation. The validation means more than he probably realizes. For months I'd worried that being connected to a federal corruption case even as a victim of identity fraud might damage my standing in the legal profession. Instead, my cooperation with law enforcement and my refusal to enable Frank's illegal activities have been viewed as demonstrations of professional integrity. Chief Williams, can I ask you something? When you first approached me at the anniversary party, did you already know about Frank's use of my credentials? We had suspicions Frank had been mentioning his connections to the DA's office through his stepdaughter and conversations with city officials. When we investigated those claims, we realized you had no knowledge of his business activities and weren't actually providing any kind of endorsement or influence. That's when we knew we had a case for identity fraud in addition to the kickback schemes. Credibility with criminal partners. Amanda, I'm sorry you and Kevin have had to discover this about Frank in such a public and painful way. I know how much you respected him. She nods, tears starting to form in her eyes. Jessica, I also need to apologize for how we treated you at family events. Listening to testimony about Frank using your professional reputation while relegating you to support roles at celebrations, I'm starting to see a pattern that I should have noticed years ago. The acknowledgement I'd never expected to hear. What pattern do you see? Frank kept you busy with logistics and coordination at family events, so you wouldn't have time to socialize with his business associates or participate in conversations where you might have discovered how he was using your credentials. And Kevin and I went along with it because it was convenient to have you handle all the organizational work while we enjoyed the parties. The insight surprises me with its accuracy. Frank had systematically excluded me from family celebrations not just through delegation of support tasks, but specifically to prevent me from interacting with business associates who might have mentioned his claims about my professional involvement. The anniversary party was the worst example, Amanda continues. Frank had invited several city officials and potential business partners. He needed you distracted and out of the main celebration so you wouldn't accidentally contradict his claims about your cooperation with his business activities. Which is why I spent over an hour in the kitchen while you and Kevin posed for family photos. Yes, and Jessica, I realize now that I was complicit in that exclusion. I was the one who told you Mom had requested your help with catering, which wasn't true. Frank had asked me to keep you busy in the kitchen during the networking portion of the evening. The final piece of the puzzle falls into place. My relegation to kitchen staff hadn't been about family dynamics or assumptions about my organizational preferences. It had been a deliberate strategy to prevent me from discovering Frank's criminal use of my professional credentials. Amanda, why are you telling me this now? Because I understand now that you were protecting yourself and Mom when you cooperated with the investigation. And because I want to rebuild some kind of relationship with you if that's possible. Kevin feels the same way. I look at Amanda, this woman who had spent months blaming me for destroying the family, now acknowledging her own role in enabling Frank's exploitation and deception. The change in perspective seems genuine, but rebuilding trust will require more than one conversation. I appreciate your apology, Amanda. Rebuilding our relationship will take time and consistent effort from both of us. I understand, Jessica. There's something else I need to tell you. Patricia asked me to let you know that Frank's sentencing hearing is scheduled for next month. She thought you should know, even though your testimony is complete. How is she doing with the divorce proceedings? Better than I expected. Her attorney was able to protect most of her assets because Frank's criminal activities violated their joint financial agreements. She'll keep the house and her retirement savings. That evening, David and I are having dinner at Chen's Garden, his family's restaurant in Chinatown, when Patricia calls with news about the trial. Jessica, the jury reached a verdict this afternoon. Frank was convicted on all charges: conspiracy, fraud, bribery, and identity theft. The other defendants were also convicted. I set down my chopsticks, feeling simultaneously relieved and sad. relieved that the legal process had reached a conclusion that validated my cooperation with the investigation. Sad that Patricia's marriage of 30 years had ended with her husband's conviction on federal criminal charges. How are you handling the news? I'm proud that justice was served, and I'm proud of you for having the courage to do the right thing despite the personal cost. Jessica, Frank's conviction means that your professional reputation is completely protected. No one can question your integrity or your cooperation with law enforcement. What happens next? Sentencing in 6 weeks. Frank could face up to 15 years in federal prison based on the scope of the conspiracy and the amount of money involved. After Patricia hangs up, David raises his teacup in a toast to Jessica Martinez, whose refusal to wash dishes in someone else's kitchen led to the conviction of a criminal conspiracy that defrauded taxpayers of millions of dollars. I laugh despite the seriousness of the situation. I don't think that's how the history books will record it. Maybe not, but it's how I'll remember it. You stood up for your professional integrity when your family was pressuring you to stay quiet, and that integrity helped expose crimes that were harming your entire community. 6 weeks later, I'm back in federal court for Frank's sentencing hearing. Patricia sits beside me in the gallery, having chosen to attend despite the emotional difficulty of watching her former husband receive his punishment. Amanda and Kevin are also present, sitting several rows behind us. Frank looks smaller somehow as he stands before the judge, wearing an orange jail uniform instead of the expensive suits he'd favored during the trial. His expensive attorney makes a plea for leniency, citing Frank's previously clean record and his contributions to the community through Morrison Construction's legitimate projects. The federal prosecutor responds by outlining the scope of Frank's crimes and their impact on municipal contracting processes and taxpayer trust. She specifically mentions the identity theft involving my credentials as an aggravating factor that demonstrates Frank's willingness to exploit family relationships for criminal purposes. Your Honor, the prosecutor states Mr. Morrison's use of his stepdaughter's professional credentials without her knowledge represents a particularly egregious aspect of this conspiracy. He weaponized family relationships and exploited the hard-earned professional reputation of a law-abiding citizen to facilitate crimes that defrauded the public of millions of dollars. Judge Margaret Reynolds, a stern woman with 20 years of federal court experience, addresses Frank directly before imposing sentence. Mr. Morrison, the evidence presented in this case demonstrates that you orchestrated a systematic scheme to defraud municipal contracting processes through bribery and kickback arrangements. Your exploitation of your stepdaughter's professional credentials to establish credibility for these criminal activities represents a profound betrayal of family trust and professional integrity. She pauses, reviewing her notes. The court sentences you to 12 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. You are ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $8.7 million to the city of Riverside Heights for contracts fraudulently obtained through your criminal conspiracy. 12 years. Frank will be 70 years old when he's released from prison, assuming he serves his full sentence. Patricia squeezes my hand as the judge continues with details about asset forfeiture and restitution payments. As court officers prepare to escort Frank back to jail, he turns toward the gallery and looks directly at me. For a moment, I see not the angry stepfather who had stood on my porch demanding loyalty and threatening consequences, but the man who had helped pay for my college education and walked me down the aisle at Patricia's wedding to him 15 years ago. But I also see the man who had systematically exploited my professional achievements for criminal purposes while relegating me to kitchen duty at family celebrations to prevent me from discovering his illegal activities. The man who had chosen personal gain over family integrity and legal compliance. Outside the courthouse, Patricia and I stand together in the October sunlight, both of us processing the finality of Frank's sentence and what it means for our family's future. Any regrets? She asks. About cooperating with the investigation? No. About how our family fractured? Yes, but I understand now that the fracture was inevitable once Frank chose to commit crimes using my identity. Jessica, I want you to know that watching you handle this situation with such integrity and courage has made me prouder of you than any professional achievement could. You chose truth over comfort, ethics over family pressure, and justice over personal convenience. I chose to protect my career and reputation. Everything else followed from that choice, which is exactly why I'm so proud. You understood that your professional integrity was worth defending, even against family pressure to compromise it. That evening, Amanda calls to invite me to Kevin's birthday party next weekend. It's the first family celebration since the anniversary party where I'd been relegated to kitchen staff, and the first time Amanda has invited me to participate rather than coordinate. Just to be clear, she says, you're invited as a guest. Kevin and I are handling all the planning and coordination ourselves. Thank you for clarifying that. I'd like to attend as a guest. Jessica, there's something else. Kevin and I have been talking about family dynamics and how we want to move forward now that Frank is out of the picture. We want to build relationships based on mutual respect rather than one person providing services for everyone else. The change I'd hoped for but never expected to hear articulated so directly. I'd like that too, Amanda. Saturday night, I arrive at Kevin's birthday party wearing a cocktail dress and carrying only a gift, not a to-do list or coordination materials. The party is at Amanda's apartment, and she's clearly put significant effort into planning and executing the celebration herself. Jessica, you look great, Kevin says, giving me a genuine hug. Thank you for coming. And thank you for everything you did to protect our family from Frank's crimes, even when we were too angry and confused to appreciate it. The acknowledgement feels like a gift in itself. Kevin and Amanda have moved from blaming me for Frank's downfall to understanding that my cooperation with law enforcement had protected all of us from further legal and financial complications. Throughout the evening, I notice the difference in family dynamics. I'm introduced to Kevin's friends as his accomplished stepsister who works in the legal profession, not as the family member who handles logistics. When someone spills wine on the coffee table, Amanda cleans it up herself rather than looking expectantly at me. When the cake is served, I'm seated at the main table with other guests, rather than standing in the kitchen, managing serving logistics. For the first time in years, I attend a family celebration as a participant, rather than as support staff. As the party winds down, Patricia pulls me aside on Amanda's balcony. How does it feel to be a guest at a family party? Strange but wonderful. I'd forgotten what it was like to socialize at family events, rather than work at them. Jessica, I want to discuss something with you. Frank's conviction means that Morrison Construction will likely be dissolved, and there will be significant assets available for restitution payments. Some of that money will come from properties Frank and I own jointly. I'm sorry you're losing financial security because of his crimes. Actually, I'm not losing as much as I initially feared. The divorce settlement protected most of my personal assets, and I'm considering using some of the money to start a scholarship fund for students pursuing careers in legal services. The idea surprises and delights me. That's a wonderful way to create something positive from this situation. I was thinking we could call it the Professional Integrity Scholarship, specifically for students who demonstrate strong ethical judgment and commitment to legal compliance. Would you be interested in helping me establish and manage it? Working with Patricia to create educational opportunities for future legal professionals feels like the perfect culmination of everything we've been through together. From the anniversary party where I was treated like kitchen staff to establishing a scholarship that promotes professional integrity, the journey has transformed both of us in ways I never anticipated. I would love to help with that, Mom. Looking back now, I understand that the night I spent washing dishes in the Riverside Country Club kitchen while my family celebrated without me wasn't just about family dynamics or party planning logistics. It was the culmination of a systematic pattern where my professional achievements were being exploited while I was kept distracted by service roles that prevented me from seeing the criminal activities being conducted in my name. Frank's use of my credentials wasn't separate from the family dynamics that relegated me to support staff at celebrations. They were connected strategies designed to maximize the benefit he could extract from my professional reputation while minimizing my awareness of how that reputation was being used. The federal investigation that followed didn't just expose municipal corruption and identity fraud, it revealed how family relationships can be manipulated to facilitate exploitation, and how professional integrity sometimes requires choosing ethical behavior over family loyalty. Chief Williams was right when he told me at the anniversary party that the district attorney had been asking about me. But not because I was under suspicion, because my professional reputation was being used without my knowledge to provide credibility for criminal activities that ultimately defrauded taxpayers of millions of dollars. The conversation in that country club ballroom, where Frank had asked about cases related to municipal contracting, wasn't casual small talk. It was intelligence gathering designed to determine whether I was aware of his criminal activities and whether my supposed cooperation with his business practices would withstand scrutiny from law enforcement. Today, 6 months after Frank's sentencing, I'm attending Patricia's retirement celebration at the same Riverside Country Club where this story began, but this time, I'm seated at the head table as the guest of honor's daughter, not standing in the kitchen, managing logistics. The irony isn't lost on me that the venue where I was treated like hired help is now hosting a celebration where I'm recognized as an accomplished professional whose integrity helped expose criminal activities that threatened our entire community. Patricia's retirement from teaching coincides with the launch of our Professional Integrity Scholarship Fund, established with restitution money recovered from Frank's criminal activities. The scholarship will support students pursuing legal careers who demonstrate strong ethical judgment and commitment to professional integrity, values that proved essential when I faced the choice between family loyalty and legal compliance. As Patricia gives her retirement speech, thanking colleagues and friends for 30 years of educational service, I think about the different ways people can choose to use their professional achievements. Frank chose to exploit family relationships and misuse professional credentials for criminal gain. I chose to protect my professional integrity, even when it meant cooperating with law enforcement against a family member. Patricia chose to transform the financial devastation of her husband's criminal conviction into educational opportunities for future legal professionals. The scholarship recipients won't know the full story behind their funding, but they'll benefit from resources created through the insistence that professional integrity cannot be compromised, even by family pressure or personal cost. During the reception following Patricia's speech, DA Catherine Brooks approaches our table. "Jessica, I wanted to congratulate you on the scholarship fund. Creating educational opportunities from the proceeds of criminal restitution is exactly the kind of positive outcome we hope to see in cases like this." Thank you, DA Brooks. It feels good to create something constructive from such a difficult situation. Your cooperation throughout the investigation and trial was exemplary. You should know that your handling of this situation has been discussed in law enforcement circles as an example of how professional integrity and ethical behavior can help expose and prosecute significant criminal conspiracies. The validation from the district attorney herself, in the same ballroom where Chief Williams had first approached me with questions about my professional credentials, feels like a full circle moment that validates every difficult choice I made throughout this process. As the evening winds down, Amanda and Kevin approach me with an envelope. "Jessica, we wanted to give you something to commemorate Mom's retirement and everything our family has been through together," Kevin says. Inside the envelope is a photograph from Patricia's retirement celebration, showing our family seated together at the head table, but it's not the image that surprises me. It's the inscription on the back, written in Amanda's handwriting, to Jessica Martinez, whose professional integrity and personal courage protected our family and community with love and respect. Amanda and Kevin, the recognition I never expected to receive from the family members who had initially blamed me for Frank's downfall. They understand now that my cooperation with law enforcement hadn't destroyed our family, it had revealed the criminal activities that were already destroying us and protected us from further legal and financial complications. Walking to my car after the celebration, I think about the journey from that anniversary party, where I was treated like kitchen staff, to tonight's retirement celebration, where I was honored as a family member whose professional achievements had helped expose criminal activities and protect community interests. The transformation wasn't just personal, it was professional, ethical, and ultimately legal. My refusal to accept being relegated to support staff at family celebrations had led to the discovery of identity fraud that was part of a larger criminal conspiracy. My cooperation with law enforcement had helped convict criminals who had defrauded taxpayers of millions of dollars. My insistence on protecting my professional reputation had created educational opportunities for future legal professionals through the scholarship fund. But perhaps most importantly, my choice to prioritize integrity over family harmony had demonstrated that real family relationships must be based on mutual respect rather than exploitation, and that professional achievements can be used to benefit communities rather than facilitate crimes. Tonight, I'm not washing dishes in someone else's kitchen while my family celebrates without me. I'm driving home from a celebration where I was recognized as an accomplished professional whose ethical choices had protected both family and community interests. Tomorrow, I'll return to my work as a paralegal at Thompson, Hayes & Associates, where my professional reputation has been enhanced rather than damaged by my cooperation with law enforcement. I'll continue building scholarship opportunities with Patricia, creating educational pathways for students who demonstrate the kind of ethical judgment that can help prevent the exploitation and criminal behavior we've all experienced. And I'll never again allow my professional credentials to be used without my knowledge or permission, my organizational skills to be exploited for others' celebrations while I'm excluded from participation, or my family relationships to be manipulated to facilitate activities that compromise my integrity or professional standing. The anniversary party, where I was treated like staff, while Frank's criminal associates celebrated in the ballroom, was the beginning of my transformation from accommodating family member to empowered professional. The federal investigation that followed was the process through which I learned to prioritize ethical behavior over family loyalty. Tonight's retirement celebration was the demonstration that professional integrity can create positive outcomes, even from the most difficult personal and legal situations. Chief Williams had asked where the district attorney was that night at the anniversary party. The answer, it turned out, was that the DA was investigating criminal activities being facilitated through the misuse of my professional credentials. Tonight, the DA was celebrating the scholarship fund created from the proceeds of criminal convictions that resulted from my cooperation with her investigation. From kitchen staff to federal witness to scholarship founder, the journey has been longer and more complicated than I ever imagined when I first overheard Frank's criminal activities at that anniversary celebration, but it has also been more rewarding than I ever expected when I made the choice to protect my professional integrity, regardless of the personal cost. Because sometimes, the most difficult ethical choices lead to the most meaningful personal and professional outcomes, and the most painful family fractures create space for healthier relationships based on mutual respect rather than systematic exploitation. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.